Lots of salespeople think that if you cure a prospect client's pain, you will get the deal. Unfortunately, there's never been anything further than the truth. There is some truth in the fact that yes, a client will have a problem, and if you cure it, then you'll be partway there to making that deal. But looking to cure pain is only one fraction of what a client is looking for when they're looking to buy from somebody. Now, a very quick example is the fact that if you were walking down the street and you had a headache and two people approached you with aspirins or ibuprofen or some form of medication to help cure that headache, paracetamol, whatever, one of which you knew a little bit, the other you'd never seen at all, who would you take that medication from? Now, that isn't the full answer to this dilemma, to this decorum, if you like, but it goes some way to suggest that there are many more channels as to why a client comes to buy from you at the end of the process, whether it's a very quick retail process or whether it's a long business-to-business process. There are also many integrations within that sales relationship that help a client or prospect client at that time come forward to say, yes, I'm going to commit to the order, to the purchase. Lots of people are also correct in saying that trust needs to be formed, which is an absolute, there is no question about that. Because why should a prospect client buy from anybody if there was no trust? Because that would increase the extent of risk that they would be taking. But then you also have reliability, credibility, and that's also on top of deliverability, the various factors that the product or service will answer or supply to, and everything else going on in the background and in the back of the mind of the client or the client mix. Because invariably when you come to sell something to anybody, there isn't just one person involved, there can be several. And that's especially the case with business-to-business sales. These are things that we'll come to look at later stages of the podcast, because trying to do everything too quickly just won't work. There's also an awful lot of groundwork that needs to be covered before we start going into these various areas. But to help ascertain what we mean by that is, let's imagine the friendships that we have. There will be friendships, people that you've known for quite some time, maybe many months, maybe many years, who you will listen to for restaurant recommendations, which bars to go to, where to take your next holiday, even down to relationship advice, whether that's at work or very personal in your personal lives and your family lives. These friendships, these relationships will be well formed. You'll have them as reliable partners in life, if you like. You may certainly enjoy spending time with them, having fun, going to various events and sharing special occasions. But just think of that reliability in those relationships in terms of what is discussed that you hear from them and that you action, and then advice that you give them that they then do the same. How long has it taken to get to that level in that relationship to allow that, to be comfortable with that, to be able to share the insights that you give, whether it be family life, personal life, or again with work? There can be various levels of these friendships. There can be friendships or acquaintances at work. People that you go to for advice over and above professional relationships such as your boss. You may have mentors, coaches, business buddies, that entire mix of people. But there will be people that you take advice from, that you credit their advice, And how long is it taken to get to that level for you to do that? Chances are it's taken quite some time. Chances are it's taken so long you haven't actually monitored the process, of which point you get to a certain position where you think, yes, I trust this person, I rely on this person, and it's nice to think or feel that they do the same for me. Yet, when it comes to sales relationships, these are all the expectations that we want to form with prospect clients. These are the mindsets of the prospect clients in terms of what they're looking for from you. One of the biggest problems in sales is the fact that you don't have the same length of time with relationships that you have with friendships or business partnerships or business liaisons or acquaintances, whoever it might be, to form the relationship to the same level to be able to achieve that sale. And in fact, when it comes down to winning trust, to forming trust, to building credibility, believe it or not, there's actually a very scientific process involved to be able to do that and do that within pressures of time. Now, depending on what level that you're going to follow this podcast to, these are things that we're going to cover, which not many other people do or have done, but it's based on very, very solid scientific principles that once you know, you can start to follow that make huge, huge differences to your sales process. But this again goes back to the fact that just curing the pain of a client is nowhere near close enough to winning the deal at the end of the day. Just as the same is offer the right price, lower the price, discount or whatever is never the route to a very fulfilling sales relationship between a buyer and a seller. There is so much more that goes into sales that lots of people do get right if they have the right values and the right relationships. But even then, things change very often due to pressures, deadlines, business relationships in their own organization, let alone any pressures coming from a client organization that people then need to consider. And it's there where these scientific findings, these scientific followings make one huge difference, because no matter what goes on behind the scenes with personal relationships, what's happened at home, how you might be dealing with things in your life away from work, and certainly not with any pressures within the business organization that you work for, if you follow these findings, this structure, you can still be as successful in your sales relationships and your sales achievements, regardless of whatever else is going on in the world at that time. And especially if it's just things going on in your world, such as busy family lives, personal pressures, business pressures, or whatever. Because so many people take these pressures into their daily lives, and this is what causes the problem. Yet so often we see content or material online that just says, if you do this, you'll get the sale. If you do that, you will achieve this. It is so much more complicated than that. But our intent with this podcast, again, depending on the level that you want to follow it to, is to simplify this and to really give you several steps ahead of the norm that can make one huge, huge difference to your sales achievements. And that's a saying stating for both the salesperson, the sales team, the sales management, and the general management of the organization, whether it's C-suite, CEO, or just the overriding manager of your business revenue, the finance department, whoever. These sales processes can really make a difference, and sales is the department that is charged with bringing in revenue for the organization. Therefore, we'll leave that there for now. Again, there is huge, huge coverage there with lots of the things that have just been mentioned in terms of what we need to look at to really make a difference to sales processes. However, the intent is to make things simple as they are and as they've proven to be. There just needs to be time to cover them, but most importantly of all, to again open minds to the fact that just doing one thing, such as curing pain, will not be the answer to a fully successful sales process. Because again, there's just so much more to it. But once again, also, once people know, then they can adapt to that. That makes a huge difference to their achievements.